Sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, and fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, well, folks, how about this? Have you had your bran today? When you started your day with your bran? By the way, that's about 1 cup, 60 grams. Guess what's inside of that? 30 grams of fiber. By the way, you're recommended to get 30 for the entire day. Your kickoff already included all that you need for the day. That's 3 more times the fiber than the maximum daily dose for fiber allowed by taking fiber laxatives such as a Metamucil. Now, is this the way the vast number of Americans start their day? Sure, but what about this? What about if you, do you ever say, I'm sure that I get my daily fiber today? Or how about this? I don't take fiber. My doctor has me on a mild stool softener. How about fiber coming at you in so many different ways? Fiber can be and is hazardous to your health. Never mind the fact that you think, that most of us do think, that fiber is healthy. Fiber is good for you. Fiber is needed to keep you regular. Well, all this and more we're going to be discussing with our guests today. We kicked this topic off on Monday. I'm sure you really enjoyed hearing from our expert, forensic nutritionist. His name is Mr. Constantine Monastyrsky, and he's going to be back with us today. We're going to go over this issue of fiber again and get to the nasty disorder, I think, that leads the way to all these fiber ills, and that disorder is constipation. So fiber and constipation will occupy our time today with our featured guest, who I have a feeling will be coming back many, many times in the future to help straighten things out. We absolutely need his help. Now, if in the conversation today with Mr. Monastyrsky, you want to call in to ask a question or make a comment, the number, of course, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. We will get with Mr. Monastyrsky right after our first break. Now, up and coming on the calendar, let's take a look at what we got in store for you the remainder of this month. Of course, on Friday, we're finally going to bring back the topic and finish it off with our good friend Dr. David Brownstein, his book entitled Salting Your Way to Health, attacking another sacred cow, the sacred cow being, by the way, that salt is bad for you. Well, it's not. Fiber is what's bad. All the sacred cows going up in smoke, folks. Anyway, Dr. David Brownstein, our guest on Friday, to finish off the topic. Then all of next week, you're going to be enchanted and enthralled, and maybe even disgusted. You'll see what I mean next week. I'll be anxious to hear your comments about our guest. Professor Brian Teskin will be with us. Really, the sacred cow that kicked this all off a couple of months ago was the issue of fish oils. He is an expert on fish oils and how hazardous they are to your health. All of these sacred cows are going down one at a time, and you'll enjoy him on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of next week. I should also mention that MCG testing. Now, finally, I can report to you that the device, this MCG device, we finally procured it. It is going to be delivered next week, and we have set the new date for retesting. Now, many of you had already signed up for MCG testing. We had to change it because the device got hung up due to a technicality. It was not delivered. and that was supposed to be conducted on September 8th. We have now changed the date. You will be contacted if you were already on the list to be tested, but you may now contact us if you have a desire to receive MCG testing, this multi-cardiogram testing. We'll be talking about a lot now because once the device is here, we'll be doing these very frequently, a couple of times a month, because the device will be on site. Anyway, MCG testing is now available. And that pretty much rounds that up. Now, because there's so much that we are going to get into today, I don't think we should pussyfoot around anymore. Let's go after a cow, a sacred cow. The sacred cow of fiber, and the fact that fiber can be, and more than likely is, injurious to your health. The expert who reveals this in his books and on his website was with us on Monday. He'll be back in a moment with us. Here we go again. Cinch that seat buckle up. It's going to get a little bumpy around here. Be back in a moment with Mr. Konstantin Monastyrsky.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Honey, just got the word. The company's new health plan has a $5,000 deductible. We have to make sure nobody gets sick this year. Remember what those doctor's visits cost for last year's colds and flu? Oh, sorry, I've got to go. Love you.
We can do this. We can cut the fast food lunches. Soda, that's a lot of sugar. We could all take that evening walk. And hey, I heard a program about fruit of the spirit. What did they say? 1 ounce, the equivalent of 5 servings of fruit with herbs and minerals. We could add some to our breakfast protein shake. Fruit of the Spirit is unique whole fruit puree. Fruit of the Spirit contains fresh fruits native to the Holy Land and alkalizing minerals from the Dead Sea. With no added sugars, Fruit of the Spirit is a unique product from 5 years of work from science-based nutritional experts. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, convenient, affordable, and delicious. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on a Wednesday version of the show, and, well, it has been interesting around here, folks. A lot of comments coming to me via telephones, emails, and person, face-to-face, patients of mine saying, well, you're doing it again. And, in fact, we are doing it again because with the help of this gentleman who's enlightened us now in an area we didn't think we needed enlightenment, we asked him to come back today. He'll be back many times in the future, I'm sure, but today we're going to pick up where we left off with a gentleman who ought to know. He's an expert in forensic nutrition. This is a new area that I hadn't really been even aware of that existed, but once he explained it, it certainly made sense to me. He's written some enormously important books. His website is loaded with information. By the way, get a pencil and paper. We're going to be able to give you the information on how to get to both of those items. But he's our featured speaker and guest today. His name is Mr. Constantine Monastyrsky. He's with us right now. Let's say good morning and welcome back, Constantine.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to join. Thank you.
Well, it's so nice for you to consider coming back with us again. Constantine, you got them all riled up here. Everybody's riled up. I guess you just expect that, don't you, when you're announced, when you come in and you take the air out of the balloon of most folks who have a set of beliefs about things. They think in the issue with fiber that this is great stuff, that this is good stuff, this is healthy stuff, that you need it, that, oh yeah, we got to make sure that just to be regular we need a touch of this stuff. Turns out we are leading ourselves down a real pathway of some disaster looming around the corner, and we never knew it. Constantine, help us out. Can this be true?
Unfortunately, you're very much correct. And the reason your listeners are so shocked, because if I would do it on my own, people are so skeptical they don't even listen. But when this issue is introduced by a bona fide doctor like you are, then people really take it seriously because they trust you. And once they hear the facts, they will also start to trust this information, and hopefully it will help them to eliminate a lot of problems today for people who are young tomorrow, and especially fiber is very harmful for young children. As you know, juvenile diabetes now became almost catastrophic among small children, and the primary cause of juvenile diabetes in young children is actually excessive fiber in their diet. And so let's go claim by claim, or false claims made by parties that are actually vested, that actually derive financial benefits from selling fiber to American consumers.
Yeah, these claims of yours, Constantine,
yes.
I thought were just an ideal way of starting off this discussion, because we have preconceived thoughts about fiber in this category of, well, it can do this for us, it can do that for us, it can do. Turns out that everything we think it can do, it doesn't do it, and in most cases, it does the opposite. Could you take us on a quick listing of the 8 false claims that you were able to uncover in your work?
Absolutely. I will take you, and I will not go even to use any of my logic to debunking these false claims. We will just simply refer to the mainstream blue ribbon sources to just debunk them. So let's go claim by claim. False claim number 1. Dietary fiber prevents colon cancer. In fact, it's the complete opposite. Fiber is one of the primary causes of polyps that cause colon cancer.
Colon cancer, it can actually provoke it by virtue of polyp formation, correct?
Exactly. Precipitated, and polyps are precipitated primarily by fiber. Here the quote. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and I quote, scientific evidence not only demonstrates the lack of significant scientific agreement as to the validity of relationship between dietary fiber and colorectal cancer, but also provides strong evidence that such a relationship does not exist. End of quote. And if any doctors or nutritionists are listening to us now, they say, no, it's crazy, it cannot be. Here is the Merck Manual of Diagnosis and Therapy. If you, our readers, if our listeners don't know what it is, it's a mainstream textbook on medical issues, and it's what American doctors, always, it's the first source for every doctor in the United States. Here's what it says. I'm quoting. Carcinogens may be ingested in the diet, but are more likely produced by bacterial action on dietary substances or biliary or intestinal secretions. That's end of quote. Now, what kind of a dietary substance can cause fermentation, bacterial action in the colon? Only one. Dietary fiber is the only substance that actually reaches the colon undigested and that is subject to this bacterial action. We go to false claim number 2. Fiber prevents breast cancer. A lot of women, young, middle-aged, old, they take fiber because they believe this claim is true. But in fact, as you know, fiber is a carbohydrate. It's partially digestible, partly undigestible. It is found in fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts, and legumes, along with 5 to 10 times as many digestible carbohydrates. Well, according to a massive study funded by again, listen who funded it, by United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and I quote, a high percentage of calories from carbohydrates, but not from fat, was associated with increased breast cancer risk, end of quote. And in fact, this association was so bad, 220%, that's 2.2 times increase in breast cancers for those who were getting over 60% of their calories from carbs, and United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention canceled the study.
Yeah, they made them stop. It was such a high risk factor for developing breast cancer. They actually called it quits to the study. How about the number 3? How about your third
false
claim? Yes.
Reduces the risk of heart disease. If you go to any supermarket and you get a box of cereal with fiber, you are likely to see on this box an endorsement by American Heart Association that having a few servings of fiber is good for your heart. It's a complete opposite. Fiber, along with low-fat diet, increases the risk of heart disease. And again, it's not my opinion. There is a very prominent Townsend letter for doctors and patients, and I quote from that letter. Women who follow American Heart Association guidelines for lowering their serum cholesterol may actually increase their risk of heart disease. End of quote. And why, you may ask? Well, it is pretty simple. If you consume a high-fiber diet, it means you are consuming a lot of carbohydrates. And excessive carbohydrates contribute to obesity, elevated triglycerides, hypertension, and atherosclerosis. These are 4 major risk factors behind heart disease. And so now we're ready to address false claim number 2, that fiber protects people from diabetes. And by the way, diabetes and heart disease are related conditions. They're called comorbid. Actually, fiber doesn't do anything to prevent diabetes. It's the complete opposite. Sugars and starches in high-fiber products cause diabetic complications. Just consider this quote from the Harvard School of Public Health. It's on their website. And I quote, fiber intake has also been linked with the metabolic syndrome, a constellation of factors that increase the chances of developing heart disease and diabetes. These factors include high blood pressure, high insulin level, excessive weight, high level of triglycerides, and low level of HDL, which is good cholesterol. And end of quote. And well, this quote is just echoing a previous false claim that fiber reduces the risk of heart disease and enumerates exactly the same factors that I already enumerated. And now let's go to false claim number 5, that fiber reduces appetite. This falsehood is actually used to promote fiber as a weight loss miracle. I mean, countless books have been written on this subject. The truth is, fiber stimulates appetite and overeating. It contributes to weight gain and obesity. Here is the research report that was published back in 2003 in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and I quote the name of the report: fermentable and non-fermentable fiber supplements did not alter hunger, satiety, or body weight in a pilot study of men and women consuming self-selected diets. End of quote. Now, again, this is not some kind of an alternative research to support my finding. It was conducted by the Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University, and it was funded by the United States Department of Agriculture. Of all people. Now,
of all people.
Of all people, exactly. And if you care to learn why, it is rather simple. Fiber-rich foods expand the stomach by its sheer weight, volume, and water absorbency. This, in turn, raises the threshold of satiety, stimulates appetite, and makes you much hungrier the next time around. It doesn't happen right away, but it takes time, and in a year or two of high-fiber diet, you will definitely get up in the morning and you'll be very, very hungry. And the reason you'll be very hungry because you have elevated level of insulin, because you have irritated stomach, and what are you going to do first? You will grab another breakfast full of fiber, and you just enter this vicious cycle.
The vicious cycle begins.
Tendency, exactly. And another reason, fiber blocks the absorption of nutrients inside the small intestine. And this in turn causes undernutrition. And again, it takes time to develop. When your body senses this condition, it actually stimulates hunger and appetite to encourage you to eat more and more and more, and that's why. And this is precipitates essentially an obesity epidemic, and this is what we're dealing now with over 70% of Americans now being diabetic, being overweight, with 25 million people with diabetes, and with 50 million plus people with prediabetes. It's a fairly disastrous condition, and again, this happened in this huge. This is a huge blow-up. It essentially happened in the last generation, 20 to 25 years, and in fact, fiber entered, became a prominent health cure in the United States of America only about 30 years ago, in the early 80s. Another false claim.
Number 6. I'm keeping count, Constantine. This is number 6. Okay.
Fiber has 0 calories. You know, a lot of diets promote fiber, and they claim that its calorie count is 0, so they say it's net 0. It is not true. It is an outright lie. Fiber contains calories just like any other carbohydrate. According to the dietary reference intake for energy, carbohydrates, fiber, fat, fatty acids, cholesterol, protein, and amino acids. This is the nutritional Bible published by the National Academies of Stress, which is in turn is a division of National Institutes of Health. Fiber fills you with calories just like any other food. And I quote from that source: current data indicates that the yield from fiber in the range of 1.5 to 2.5 calories per gram. End of quote. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if you consume daily 35 grams of recommended fiber, over a year, this adapts to over 20 to 30,000 extra calories in a single year.
Wow.
Exactly net 0. That's a lot. Ready for fiber claim number 7?
Number 7. What is it?
7. We go. Fiber keeps the colon clean. And this incidentally will bring us next to our next topic, the topic of constipation. This claim is based on another falsehood that states that fiber keeps the colon clean because it speeds up elimination of stools. Well, this is not true. According to the highly respected and authoritative textbook for GI doctors entitled ROM 2 and ROM 3, the functional gastrointestinal disorders, it says, and I quote, "There is little or no relationship between dietary fiber intake and full gut transit time." And it adds, constipated patients on the average do not eat less fiber than control. End of quote. And in fact, I explain in Fiber Menace that fiber delays and extends gut transit time more than any other food ingredient, and it is the #1 cause of chronic constipation, and then hemorrhoids, and then diverticular disease, and then ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's disease. And finally, false claim number 8, fiber relieves chronic constipation. And by the way, even before I go into this, FDA, Federal Drug Administration, prohibits to use this claim. And so every time you go to buy a fiber laxative, it will never say constipation. It will say regularity.
Yeah.
American College of Gastroenterology, according to the experts from the American College of Gastroenterology's Functional Gastrointestinal Disorders Task Force, everything is very complicated when you go into this course. All legitimate clinical trials, and I quote, did not demonstrate a significant improvement in stool frequency or consistency when compared with placebo. End of quote. In plain English, it means fiber is no better at relieving constipation than a sugar pill. But the problem is, sugar pill is not going to cause you any harm, but the fiber will. And by the way, as I said, it is against the law to sell supplements for constipation relief. Well,
that is a heck of a list. I think some of them I wouldn't even thought of. I mean, the thing about the fiber preventing breast cancer, I never really looked at it that way. I didn't realize that was something that was on the street out there. However, so many of the GI-related issues and the sugar issues and the cardiovascular issues, these are all well entrenched in our own minds as being absolute truths, when in fact, according to very prestigious literature, they're quite the contrary. They're in fact the opposite. Konstantin, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to go to Konstantin's website, where all this is listed out for you. There are YouTube presentations you put together, Konstantin. Your books are also available at your website. Why don't you give our listeners a chance to understand how they can get this in their own hands and have it as their own reference? Please take a moment or two for that.
Thank you, Dr. Courtney. It's very, very simple. Don't try even to remember the website name. Just either type Fiber Menace in Google. Just Google it, and you will get a lot of references. Or type GutSense, sense.org or .com, gotsense.org. So essentially my work is about common sense as it relates to your gut, and as you know well, your health begins and ends in the gut, so you really have to go into this information. And I know it's hard to take, I know you'll be skeptical, but again, every single point that I make is being referenced to mainstream sources of clinical and medical information. This is all well known to any specialist who is involved in this specific field. It is well known to gastroenterologists. It is well known to nutritionists. It is well known to dietitians. Unfortunately, why fiber is being so pervasive, it is not promoted by the doctors. It is promoted by the industries that actually benefit from selling to you and promoting to you what used to be livestock feed. Now it is promoted as a health food because it is super profitable.
All right, there you have it, folks. Get to that website, order that book, have it in your hand as I have it in mine. I may find it to be fascinating reading. I can't put it down. Whenever you see the fallacies coming up one after another, false claims made, and an understanding on our part as in the medical profession that I represent, to have a completely opposite view of the way things really are rather angers me, and it's for that reason I can't scream this message loud enough with the help of Konstantin Monastyrsky. Now, going into your book a little more, Konstantin, with respect to fiber, there are a number of symptoms that fiber is well known to produce. I'm not so sure that the listeners even know that it can produce them, and I want you to fire these symptoms at you and let you explain that, yes, fiber can cause them, and explain how, in fact, it can cause them. Would you do that for me?
Absolutely. This is the clincher, really. I mean, everything that we read from scientific literature, we can still be skeptical, but let's go. You can go now on the website of Rite Aid, the prominent drugstore chain, and type Metamucil. And they will display to you, along with a lot of bottles of Metamucil on their shelves, they will also display a list of side effects. And here are the side effects for a very prominent daily laxative. And incidentally, a daily dose of this laxative is only 12 grams of fiber. When you consume fiber-fortified cereals or fiber-fortified bread, you actually take 30, 40, 50 grams or more fiber a day. Here is what just 12 grams of fiber will do. Side effects: bloating, gas, and feeling of fullness may occur. If these effects continue or become bothersome, inform your doctor. Notify your doctor if you experience vomiting, rectal bleeding, and, this is funny, unreleased constipation.
Yeah, but you're taking it for constipation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why you're taking the Metamucil, I think, and yet your constipation isn't going to get relieved, especially if you're taking Metamucil chronically. We'll get into that later on in the show today, because constipation, we're going to swing to that topic. What are the other side effects of Metamucil? A very mild, we call them stool softeners. We don't even call them fibers. They're just called stool softeners to make the name sound a little more pleasing, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, so you can get you can get flatulence, gas that comes along with it. Stomach cramps. Those aren't stomach cramps, are they? Those are abdominal cramps. How so?
The cramping is a pain sensation in the abdominal region that results from gases, inflammation, excessive acidity, and intestinal obstruction and large stools. All of them stem from regular contraction or affected by essentially a pressure of the successive gases on the small and large intestine and on adjoining organs. By the way, a lot of women in America suffer from PMS, premenstrual syndrome. Guess what is one of the primary causes behind PMS? When period comes, uterus gets enlarged, and when you have an adjoining, extended, distended small intestine and large intestine, it really kind of starts to push on it and causes a lot of problems, and all related, by the way, gynecological problems as well.
All right. Now, Konstantin, I'm an avid reader of your stuff. Like I said, I've been clutching this book ever since you sent it to me. I thank you so much. And as I read, and we're right in the first chapter, you talk about, when you write a thriller, Konstantin, you're supposed to write it to grab the attention of the reader right out of the chute. And you sure do that. You don't pussyfoot around. You get right to the meat of this issue of fiber, and you bring out the the information that is so up in the face of what we believe to be true. But as I read your stuff, I see a pattern emerge. You don't explain the pattern, but this is the pattern as I see it. Let me, as a very humble student, tell you how I look at this, and then let me know if I got this right, okay?
Yes.
You take a fiber into your mouth, you ingest it, okay? And lo and behold, it now has a north to south route to take from the mouth all the way to the anus. Every single structure, this fiber is going to pass through. As I read your stuff, in every area, every zip code here, whether it's the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the duodenum, the ileum, the colon, the rectum, every single stop, a similar phenomenon is occurring. This undigestible fiber forms a mass, a ball of stuff that can't be digested, so it just remains as mass. Then, part two of the pattern, as I see it, this fiber is able to take on moisture, fluid, and liquid and enormously grow in size somewhere between 5 and 10-fold of the original mass. How am I doing so far?
That is absolutely correct.
Then, once this mass has turned into such a large, bulky piece of material that the body can't really deal with, it lays in that spot, whether it's mouth all the way through, going north to south, longer than it should, and it begins to irritate the tissue that it lies in contact with. Now an inflammatory component comes into play that heretofore didn't exist. The combination of the mass and the inflammation wears on the mucous membranes in the north to south fashion, ultimately leading, depending on what the zip code is, to some pathology, some well-known pathology that people suffer from every single day, whereas the unifying force potentially to every single one of them, the ingestion of fiber was the triggering mechanism. If I did okay at getting your pattern, it's your ability to write that does so, because I had no idea that could happen. How do I get it, Professor? How am I doing?
You're doing great. And let's summarize the damages. Constipation, according to the National Institute of Health, is one of the most common gastrointestinal complaints in the United States. Hemorrhoids are very common in both men and women. About half of the population have hemorrhoids by the age 50. Also, according to the National Institute of Health, about half of all people in the United States over age 50 have diverticular disease, according to the National Institute of Health. Irritable bowel syndrome affects approximately 10 to 15% of American general population. That's 25 to 40 million people, according to the International Foundation for Functional Gastrointestinal Disorders. Over 1 million Americans are affected by ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. That's according to Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. About 25% to 40% of ulcerative colitis patients must eventually have their colons removed because of the massive bleeding, severe illness, rupture of the colon, or risk of cancer. That's National Institute of Health. Colorectal cancer is one of the most commonly diagnosed cancers in the United States. In 2003, the latest available data, over 140,000 people were diagnosed and 55 died from colorectal cancer. That's according to Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. PMS, premenstrual syndrome, is estimated to affect up to 75% of women during their childbearing years. And hernias, also a very pervasive condition, 4.5 million people, 800,000 new cases per year. And Dr. Courtney, we've been around for a long time. I'm 57, so we're about the same age. 20 years, 30 years ago when you started practicing medicine, did you see this in the same alarming proportions you do today?
No, I think that we've had just an explosion of every single one of these, and so unbeknownst to everybody in medicine, this is flying right over our heads, and we're not seeing a common unifying factor because we still embrace fiber as this wonderful product, which it is not. And until our listeners, we always are much concerned about how our listeners are able to take the information that we give them and then apply it to their own lives. It starts right here, folks, because I wouldn't be looking for the conventional medical community in any time real soon to start espousing the concepts we're laying forth. We are here for you. Constantine, the work that you do really isn't for doctors. They're not listening to you, Constantine. They don't want to hear from you. And so it will be only by word of mouth and your written word that the patients of this world the general population in this world will get the message. It will get out because there'll be people like you and people like me that keep on passing this message down the line. And finally, the doctors will get it. Probably take about 100 years, but that's, I think, a good estimate of how long it's going to take.
Well, unfortunately, that is true, and unfortunately, doctors and their families and their children suffer from this menace just as much as the rest of the population.
And we're promoting, as physicians, we are actually promoting the very set of diseases we claim we are here to protect you from. It is a giant conundrum. It is a vicious cycle, and the fact that it is promulgated by us is...
Well, to be fair, you know what, I respectfully disagree. I don't think it's doctors' fault, really. Doctors, you know, just like, we're all caring citizens, and absolute majority of doctors wish well to their patients. And it's not like they're promoting fiber because they want to...
No, it's unknowing to them. It's just completely...
Exactly.
They don't know.
Exactly, and that's what's really scary. And again, you're a doctor, you're doing this phenomenal work, and doctors do listen. And because when we start to list all these problems, well, doctors have exactly the same guts as the rest of them.
They're having every one of these symptoms too. That's exactly right. All right. So, folks, I can't encourage you enough. Get this book. I will tell you, as I look through it, and Constantine, you described every malady I think that can exist between the mouth and the anus. Every single, I mean, you know, GERD and Barrett's esophagitis and ulcerations and ulcerative colitis and gastritis and hiatal hernia. The list just was endless, and it showed a link, the common link that could be the factor that provokes the ultimately the disease we're talking about. You've described in every single case how that actually happens. Folks, get the book. You'll have the reference in your own hand, and you'll be able to take it from there. And I thank you once again, Constantine, for being able to pull it all together in such a logical fashion. Now, I got a question for you, and here it is. That pattern that I talked about was a pattern that I saw that slowed everything down because this fiber creates an unusually large mass, which when water gets added to it, makes an incredibly large mass, and the slowing down of the motility from mouth into the large intestines is the common linking factor. However, what happens in the large intestines, at least for a time, everything gets speeded up. I'm asking you why, Constantine, because it's because of that speeded up component in the large intestines that we get the misconception, don't you think? Don't you think that's the reason?
That is correct. And the reason is pretty much very simple. I mean, if you give a person a laxative, it will speed up elimination. And fiber is a laxative. There are two components to its action. One is the soluble fiber. Soluble fiber blocks absorption of fluids in the small intestine and absorption of fluids in the large intestine, and so stools become moist. It retains more moisture. And moisture is very, very heavy. And as you know, gravitation along with peristalsis are two major components of the bowel movement, of the normal bowel movement. And second, fiber also is a bulking factor because it has insoluble component. This insoluble component absorbs up to 5 to 10 times its weight in volume of water, and it makes stools larger, so gravitation is increased. And the third factor, when insoluble and soluble fiber gets down to the colon, a normal colon has a very prodigious population of bacteria, and these bacteria begin to ferment fiber, and in the process of fermentation we get the same thing we have during the wine making: gases, acidity, fatty acids, and they're irritants, so they begin to irritate colon walls. So when you take the combination of all those factors, irritation, gravity, and moisture, you do get speed up stools. That's normal, but unfortunately that last component in large stools, that's what really gets us into trouble, because we have, once the stools become sufficiently large, we have to strain to eliminate them, because anal canal, anus is a fairly small organ, it's very restricted, and once we begin to strain, this precipitates a whole bunch of other problems, and the first one is hemorrhoids. The most obvious one, and the second one is diverticular disease, because when you get so much bulk inside your large intestine, and as you get older, your internal organs are becoming less supple as when you're young, and that's where you get those bulges, the doctors refer to as diverticular.
Wow. So as you look at this picture in toto, we take fibers to promote elimination, and in fact, we get what we ask for. We do promote elimination in our own mind because we're able to have that bowel movement a day or two a day or whatever it is that the individual is taking that laxative or that fiber for. It's everything from the mouth up to the colon that slows itself down so much that, yes, you may get relief of your constipation or your elimination may be promoted, but the damage that is and the havoc that is wrought between the mouth and the large intestine is getting undetected. It's not ever being expressed. You don't know it's going on. You get some symptoms later on, but the fact that you can have that bowel movement is what you keep taking the fiber for, and then finally one day it doesn't even do that, does it? Because the lack of contractility and motility in the colon ultimately doesn't allow for the laxative to work, and now you're in real trouble.
That is correct. As soon as we develop anal damage, as soon as we get problems, as soon as we get older, we no longer can move bowels naturally, and we have now to switch over to harder laxatives. And on top, because they may be irritants or they cause some other action on the intestinal walls, we run into even more problems than, with fiber, and we continue taking fiber. And by the way, every single laxative has the same common set of problems. And problem number one is addiction, problem number two is dependence, and problem number three is side effects. And if you look at a fiber as a laxative, as a hard laxative, you get essentially what you pay for. And even if you buy a bottle of metamizole, it says it is not designed for extended use, only for occasional use to attain regularity. But people take it for years and years and years, and when your major food of the day, let's say a bowl of cereals, become your hard laxative essentially, you're getting the same effect as you're getting from metamizole, obviously you will run into this problem sooner or later. And unfortunately, when people start to take fiber, it's exactly when they're having some motility problems, and it's usually between 30 and 40 years. And so by the time we reach 50 and 60, that's where we begin paying the price.
All right, folks want to get at you. Do you mind taking any questions on the air? Konstantin, do you mind taking questions over the phone?
Oh, I'll be very happy to.
All right, you are with Konstantin Monastyrsky. Go right ahead. What's on your mind? Ask the genius.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hello.
Hi. I guess I just need more explanation, because I don't know what the alternative to eating fiber is, because there's a little bit of fiber in everything. Would he be against the fiber that naturally comes in fruits and vegetables when you juice them or when you eat them, however you eat them in a diet? And
okay, why don't we talk about that, Constantine? Because we're scaring the bejesus out of everybody by taking fiber. What forms of fiber in the course of eating a diet? Because I never considered taking fiber per se. I eat a diet, and I'm sure there's fiber in there. What forms of these fibers would be acceptable and not lead to, or does any fiber lead to, the things that we're talking about today? That's the question of the listener.
The very first, by the way, thank you very much for following Curry's explanation. The very first phrase that opens up my book, it says, if you consume minor quantities of fiber from natural, unprocessed food, there isn't anything wrong with it, because A, small amounts of natural fiber, which is mostly soluble, will not obstruct your intestines or cause diarrhea. Most of it will get fermented in the large intestine, and the remainder will not bulk up the volume of stool high enough to cause any damage from rockets. But that is not what most Americans do or are urged to do. And when you say fiber is everywhere, not really true. Our processed fiber is added to processed foods. And what kind of foods are we talking about? Whole grain pasta with added bran, whole grain cereals with added bran. A lot of ice creams now are being stabilized with fiber. But if you go onto the label and you start reading it, fiber is always listed as a separate component. And if you look at dairy, if it's a natural dairy, there is no fiber. If you look at meat, fish, poultry, there is no fiber. If you look at most fruits and vegetables, non-tropical or tropical, there is really almost no fiber. In fact, when I was a child, before giving me an apple, my mother will peel the skin, and she will remove the seeds. And I would ask her, Mom, why did you do this? She says, no good for you. And if you ask any pediatric physician, if a particular pediatric surgeon, what is the major surgery for small children? Appendicitis. And what do they usually find in the certain appendix that they remove? Seeds and skins from fruits, because these components don't digest. They pollute the fruitful organs. because they cause inflammation, and then you end up having appendicitis in your child.
Hey, I'll give you one better. I think that we who think healthy would like to believe, I believe it's an axiom that the real nutrients are in the skin, like of the apple, or the skin of an orange and things like that. That's where the real nutrients are. Is that the case or not the case?
It's actually not the case.
It is not the case. Another fallacy. Oh, goodness gracious.
And there's more harm from skin. So what is the purpose of the skin? The purpose of the skin is to protect the fruit from insects. And so skin is usually one of the most toxic components of any product, and it's one of the rougher one. And also because now most of the fruits and vegetables we're consuming, they're farm-raised, the skin is also where most of the pesticides and herbicides and all those other chemicals are concentrated.
So if the food is unprocessed and it is a natural form, the likelihood is that the amount of fiber will not be injurious to you. When does it turn the tide? When is it because I have my own mind when I think it is, but when is it that you think that the intake of fiber really can become problematic?
It becomes I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
It becomes problematic really when we start to try to reach the threshold of 30 to 40 grams a day, and to do that we need to take processed food, and one of the primary sources of dietary fiber is fortified cereals. So and it's cumulative. It takes time to develop. Again, it's not very quick, but again, all you need to do is just to look at the label with nutritional facts and read that label and just act accordingly.
So I think maybe you just answered my question in the best way possible. The recommendation out there, given to us by the medical professionals, as adults at least, I think it's between, is it 30 to 38 grams of fiber a day is the recommended dosage of fiber you're supposed to have. If you're trying to achieve that, you more than likely to be able to achieve it are going to step over the line. Is that a fair enough assessment?
That is absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
There's the problem right there. So if fiber is high on your list to make sure, because you want to be healthy, look, I'm told I need at least 30 grams a day of this stuff, and you're out there counting and you're trying to get to 30, you are going to get in trouble, and you aren't going to be benefited. You're going to be potentially harmed from that dutiful assessment of your own health. You thought you were doing everything healthy. You were actually doing it the wrong way. That is a key. That's a key issue. That's how I'm going to answer it to my patients from now on. I'm glad to see that you have your seal of approval. If you're working toward a number, you are in potentially a problem area. Fair enough?
Yes, fair enough, and it may sound preposterous, but if you take like fiber laxatives, it's actually safer than if you try to take the same amount of fiber from processed foods, because along with fiber you get 5 to 10 times more of digestible carbohydrates, and that's what precipitates diabetes, prediabetes, and obesity. So fiber is not only a harm to your colorectal organs, fiber is also tremendous harm. Trying to get the fiber in those amounts is also tremendous harm to your overall health, because if you are developing prediabetes or diabetes or obesity, then you run into a whole bunch of other diseases.
Oh, by the way, that thing about the calories found in fiber is precious, because we have been led to believe that fiber doesn't have any calories to it, that if you want to lose weight, do plenty of fiber. It's like cellulose. It's like trying to eat a log. There aren't really any calories to worry about. Turns out fiber has a tremendous amount of calories that will put you in jeopardy, even with something as simple as weight loss. Constantine, you are amazing. You are amazing. Now look, we wanted to get, and we're just going to get to the beginning of it, because I think the real culprit here, the real medical problem that leads to the potential harm from north to south, all the way down from mouth to anus, is this disorder, this dysfunction called constipation. It is why we are here, Constantine. It's why we have that 30 gram to 38 grams a day of fiber recommended to allow elimination to be provoked. We suffer all the consequences that you outline in your book. Could you please at least get us started today? We've got to come back, and I'm off air today going to be asking you when you can come back to be able to really do this topic well. But let's start with this. I believe the problem child, and the problem child is constipation. That's at the head of the list. Don't you agree?
I absolutely agree. And now, before we even start talking about constipation, let's define what is actually normality, because people completely forgot what it is actually to have normal bowel movement. And I wish to remind to everybody, moving the bowels is an instinct. It is not an acquired trait. You don't need to teach newborns to move their bowels. It comes to them as naturally as breathing or crying. Similarly, there are seniors who have never had a problem moving their bowels naturally, and they are free from most common colorectal disorders such as irregularity, constipation, hemorrhoids, or diverticular disease. And there are several not-forcing characteristics of this natural bowel movement, and they equally apply to happy babies, healthy seniors, and everyone in between. Number one, strong defecation urge. Ideally, a strong sensation to move the bowels is experienced after each major meal, or at least one daily. If you don't experience it, you already have either obvious apparent constipation or latent constipation. And never ever suppress this urge, because when we start to suppress it, we actually learn, we put the mind over instinct, and that's what actually precipitates chronic constipation for the rest of your life. Second one is small-sized stools. The stools are small, soft, and finger-sized, something virally formed. And this definition comes from a very famous Bristol stool scale. It is a scale that was established in England. English apparently are not as conscious discussing the stools as Americans are, so you can go on my site and see the scale and compare your stools to that table. And a second very important pattern for having normal stool is small volume. According to most major sources, small volume means no more than 100-150 grams worth of stools per bowel movement. And in fact, most Americans are having 400 to 500 grams, almost a pound of stools per bowel movement, which is 3 to 4 times the norm. So if you have large stools, it is already an indication of having some kind of problem. And another very, very important trait, unnoticeable act. The act of defecation is an effortless, swift, and complete passing of stools. It is no more noticeable than an act of urination. There is absolutely no conscious effort of training. And if you want to find out, if you want to find out in yourself, do you have a latent constipation, or are you predisposed to constipation? Are you going to have some problems in the future with hemorrhoidal disease or diverticular disease? If you spend more than 30 seconds in a toilet, yes, you may, because this is an indication that you already have some kind of problems with stool morphology and with the bowel movement. And so if your bowel movements are not as I just described, it means they're no longer natural, and you are facing an elevated risk of all major and minor colorectal disorders, from the ubiquitous hemorrhoids to colon cancer and just about anything else you can find in the colorectal disease headings of any medical reference.
Great deal of information packed into literally 2 minutes worth, but you've given us quite a litany so that we can assess our own bowel function, our own elimination function, to see if it matches up to the so-called normal. What about, and probably a good concept to hit as we get to the tail end of this discussion today, a term called irregularity versus constipation. Is there a distinction between the two? Is one healthy, the other not? How do you assess these terms of irregularity versus constipation? What do they mean to you?
Well, ages ago, I would say 2 generations ago, a term in constipation didn't even exist. There was a term called festivity, meaning hard stool. And then later on, constipation was classified as a clinical condition, and it was very, and you know, people who made these classifications, they were looking at their own stools. And essentially, when you go to a gastroenterologist and you tell them, well, I'm having irregularity or festivity or constipation, and this doctor may ask you, how often do you move bowels? And you say, well, every other day. And if you look at any major medical reference, it says, well, that's okay. You don't have any problems. You're just not regular. And in fact, being regular in clinical reference now is defined as having stools at least every 3rd day. So if you don't have your stools on the 4th day, that's where you have a constipation. After the 3rd day, it's irregularity. But as we just discussed a few minutes ago, you have to have essentially normal stools, meaning you have stools after every single major meal, because that's how your intestinal organs work, and that's what the chain of events is.
Irregularity up to 3 days. After 3 days, it's called constipation. Did I hear you right?
That is correct, absolutely correct.
Okay, and but all the preliminary information you gave us is sort of how you assess any given bowel movement in terms of whether it's a normal bowel movement or not. And I think that with the information you provided really makes that crystal clear. I never actually heard it before expressed so concisely. I thank you, as I thank you so much already for what you're bringing to my attention and hopefully our listeners. Now, we're literally up at the gong. We're just about time to say goodbye. But you got to promise me, Constantine, that you're going to come back. We're going to talk off air to find out how your schedule and my schedule will jive. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to bring Mr. Monastyrsky back, as you would well appreciate. He is really an expert on this subject. Don't forget his book, Fiber Menace and Gut Sense, 2 books here, available on his website at gutsense.com or gutsense.org. Also, you'll have prompts to get to various YouTube presentations, lectures. You'll be able to see him lecture on so many things. I can't promote you enough. I think you do a wonderful service to us. You're bringing me information brought to me by no other, and I appreciate your genius, Professor Constantine. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Courtney. It's an honor to be on your show. I promise to be as often as you wish me to come back.
All right, we will arrange it off air. We got bongos in the background. You will learn that signals our time out of here, folks. I hope you enjoyed our discussion with Constantine today. We'll set it up for sometime in the future. Don't forget, on Friday, we're going to be talking about salting your way to health. Yes, you can, and you should. And then, we'll get back with you on Friday. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Konstantin Monastyrsky saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 72